Now the latest from ITV News Meridian with Fred Dinage and Sangeeta Barbara.
Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the south. Longer school days in every school and academy. The biggest shake-up of education in a century. What the budget plans mean for you, and not everyone is happy.
There's no evidence whatsoever that turning a school into an academy will improve things.
The flying doctors and a new state-of-the-art air ambulance. Why life-saving flights can now take off around the clock.
The votes are in. Find out who the People's Project's winners are as we hand out thousands in lottery cash.
And outfoxing the builders. The newborn cubs found living under floorboards, now in very safe hands. Good evening to you. Welcome. The usual beer and fuel duty were announced in today's budget, of course, but the big story is something that doesn't involve pennies or percentages. It's a proposal which affects our children and future generations.
Chancellor George Osborne has announced the biggest overhaul in education in more than a century. Secondary schools will finish an hour later and every school will become an academy.
Well, it would mean in Hampshire, excluding Southampton and Portsmouth, that 439 schools would need to change. 47 are already academies.
Across Wiltshire, there are more than 70 academies, but 164 would still need to adapt. And in West Sussex, there are already 52, so 177 of their state schools would need to become academies by 2020.
But how will these changes affect schools, and what is the difference between an academy and a regular school? Our social affairs correspondent Christine Alsford has been finding out.
Warren Park Primary in Havant is a highly successful community school which offers its pupils an outstanding education. And the head teacher here is dismayed that all schools will now have to opt out of local authority control and become academies.
Disbelief that they've come out with this policy today. When they prove that academies work, when this country sees that academies are the answer to all our education problems, then that is the policy they should come out with. But at this moment in time, that is not the truth. What is wrong with the system we've got at the moment, which is not broken?
The Chancellor has announced that every school will academise. They'll get a bigger slice of their own budget and more say over term times, teacher pay and curriculum. They'll all be funded centrally by government and can be run by charities or with groups of other schools, but not by local authorities.
First, I can announce that we're going to complete the task of setting schools free from local education bureaucracy, and we're going to do it in this Parliament.
In Hampshire, where more than 400 schools will now have to convert, the loyal Conservative in charge of education says it's a step too far.
Well, I'm extremely disappointed that schools are going to be forced to become academies. We were promised by the government they wouldn't repair things that didn't need mending in Hampshire and they'd leave us alone. Obviously that is not the case now, and that won't be in the best interests of Hampshire children.
Among parents too, concern about whether today's step is necessary and how it will all work.
I suppose my big question would be, how are they going to regulate all of the schools?
From what I know of academies, I probably wouldn't really want him to go to one, no. But then I don't know how it all changes. It might all change and it might be a lot better.
It's a bitter blow for parents in Sussex who campaigned long and hard against academy status for their school and won. That decision will now be overturned.
I think parents in Brighton and Hove and up and down the country will be furious about this. It takes the control of their children's education away from them while they're being told that they're getting more parental choice.
One head teacher in Basingstoke, whose school has already gone down the academy route, says the advantages can be many.
The ideas of sharing good practices a lot easier, aligning timetables, sharing good staff, buying efficiencies. So there's a lot of economies of scale to be had with it.
The government maintains its motivation is raising standards, not privatisation. But convincing everyone that this is the right path will undoubtedly be an uphill battle.
Well, our social affairs correspondent Christine Alsford joins us in the studio now. Christine, how significant is this?
It's hugely significant, and in many ways it changes the face of education completely. Just think about this figure. When the coalition government came to power in 2010, there were just 203 academies. Now, with this announcement today, within 6 years there will be 24,000. That's in just a period of some 12 years.
So what you're saying, in fact, is today's announcement marks a big shift by the government.
Yes, it certainly does. In the past, the government has always said that it would like every school to become an academy, but where schools were good or outstanding, they wouldn't force them to go down that road. Today's announcement seems to turn that on its head.
So what are the concerns if every school becomes an academy?
Well, they're probably centred around local accountability. One academy organisation already has said it intends to remove governing bodies. And there are also concerns over what happens if things go wrong in an academy school, exactly who's accountable and who will step in to sort things out.
Christine, thank you.
Well, for more on the Chancellor's Academy's announcement, do go to our website, itv.com/Meridian. And we'll be looking at the rest of the budget in more detail with Phil Hornby later in the programme.
In other news, there was an armed robbery at a supermarket on the Isle of Wight last night. It happened at the Co-op in Ryde just after 10 o'clock. The masked man, who was carrying a knife, made off with just £80. A shop worker was treated for a cut near to one of his eyes. Police believe it might be linked to two similar robberies last month at Sandown and Shanklin.
A troubled high-speed ferry which operates between Poole and the Channel Islands has been detained by maritime authorities over safety concerns. The Condor Liberation has been blighted with engineering problems since its launch a year ago. Condor says they're working on fixing steering and propulsion systems. The Maritime and Coast Guard Agency says the vessel won't be allowed to sail until it passes their inspections.
The actual repairs and recommendations are in the main complete already. What takes a little bit more time now is the fact that as a result of the outcome of the inspection, we need to get our flag state and our classification society to first of all approve the corrective action plan, which they've done, and then they'll come down and make sure that they're happy before we can invite the MCA back to take another look. And that's expected to take them in a couple of days or so.
As many as 1 in 4 community pharmacies in the south could close because of government cuts in funding.
Well, it comes at the same time as they're being asked to take the strain off GPs and hospitals by offering help and advice. A campaign against the proposed reductions is underway, as Richard Jones now reports.
MP Ranald Jayawardena is having his blood pressure checked at a pharmacy in Fleet, North Hampshire. This is the latest to be designated a healthy living pharmacy because of the wide range of services it offers. No longer does it just dispense medicines. It's regarded as a real alternative to going to a GP or to hospital. More than 1.5 million people go to pharmacies every day for help and advice, and they're key to helping take the pressure off GPs and accident and emergency departments. But the government is planning to cut funding because it says that in some areas there are too many pharmacies.
There's an intention to cut the funding currently given to community pharmacy in England by £170 million at least this coming year.
So rather than opening new pharmacies like this, campaigners say the government's plans could lead to the closure of up to 3,000 across the country.
The fact is that there are over-provision of pharmacies in some areas, and there will need to be difficult decisions taken. But I believe it's absolutely important that those pharmacies that operate in places where there isn't provision of any other description are protected, get more money, and that's indeed what this government is doing.
The government is still consulting on its plans. A final decision on the future of pharmacies is due soon. Richard Jones, ITV News.
In other news, more than 100 sheep were killed on a farm in Sussex within a 3-hour window, it's been revealed. Police are investigating the deaths of 116 sheep at West Dean near Chichester 10 days ago. They say the flock was last seen alive at 10 o'clock that morning. It's believed dogs were to blame.
Tough new powers to ban begging and street drinking in 5 areas of Southampton were approved by the City Council last night. The public space protection orders could see people fined or arrested. More than 1,000 people signed a petition against the new powers.
Resident feedback will be quite important in terms of people feeling that they are safer walking around the city, because one of the issues that has been raised is people feel sometimes threatened or intimidated by beggars, and trying to make sure that people feel safer, they feel that they are more welcome to come to Southampton and that they're able to conduct their business without being disturbed.
Well, you're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thank you so much for choosing us. Coming up,
all of last night's football, including how the Seagulls have soared up to 2nd in the Championship.
As always, for more on all of our stories, do head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, call us please, 0808 1010 095, the number to ring. Or you can get in touch via Facebook, or why not send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
It's 11 minutes past 6 and the ITV Evening News continues with the budget details and much more at 6:30. Here is Mary Nightingale.
Coming up, the Chancellor's budget full of surprises. Mr Osborne admitted our economic growth is falling and some of his targets will be missed. But he hailed a budget he said was for future generations.
The outlook for the global economy is weak. It makes for a dangerous cocktail of risks, but one that Britain is well prepared to handle if we act now so we don't pay later.
In an historic move, he announced a sugar tax on soft drinks to help tackle obesity. And there's to be a new lifetime ISA to encourage savings for home buyers and retirement. Labour said it was an unfair budget and the culmination of years of failure.
This budget, Mr Deputy Speaker, has unfairness at its very core, paid for by those who can least afford it.
Well, do join me and James Mates for that and all the rest of the day's news at 6:30.
Well, one budget headline here in the south is the announcement that £2 million of government money will go towards a new A&E department at Southampton General Hospital, especially for children.
Well, for reaction on that and the rest of the budget, our political correspondent Phil Hornby reports.
Chancellor of the Exchequer.
It's not often a budget announcement is welcomed by everyone, but that's what happened today with the news about Southampton Hospital.
I approached George about 6 weeks ago and said that we wanted to make a bid for the budget. We said we could raise £2 million. Could he match that? He said yes, we're thrilled. Oh, it's huge. I mean, there are 10 children's hospitals in the north of England. There are none in the south.
I very much welcome the announcement today about the new Children's Accident and Emergency in Southampton. That's a really good step forward for health services and children's services in our area.
The message from the Chancellor: the economy's doing OK, but there could be problems ahead. We must act now, he said, so we don't pay later, which means more cuts are on the way.
What I worry for in my constituency is the number of very vulnerable people with disabilities in particular, who are going to be hit really hard with this budget, which is making them pay the price for a crisis that was certainly none of their making.
George Osborne has missed his targets, and within that budget there are all kind of hidden hits to public spending, and they've got me very worried.
He's missed all his targets on growth, on the deficit. He's announced effectively that we're going to have another round of austerity, 3.5 billion in cuts over the next few years, and that puts local government and public services in a very, very bad and difficult position.
But it's his decision to impose a tax on sugary drinks that'll grab the headlines.
We have a problem in this country, a self-evident problem with child obesity. As the Chancellor said, he does not want to stand there in government and say we did nothing, because it's costing us a fortune. We have to grasp this nettle.
I don't like government taxing everything that moves, doing so because it feels it's got some moral imperative behind it. I think education is the way forward.
I'm delighted with the sugar tax, and I think, all congratulations. Jamie Oliver, the other campaigners up and down the country, it's really good.
I think this was a big, bold, brave, unconventional move, but it's logical and supported by all the people that really truly care about your children.
There was nothing for our region's hard-pressed rail commuters, and as everybody came out here this afternoon to digest the details of the budget inside Parliament, There was a special debate about the problems on Southern, a terrible service, said MPs from our region. But today, there was no help for them from Mr Osborne. Phil Hornby, ITV News, Westminster.
Well, the day's news now. It's just been announced that recovery work at the collapsed Didcot power station will resume this weekend. 3 workers are still missing after the collapse 3 weeks ago. Large equipment began arriving on site today. In a statement, the health and safety executives say the priority is to recover the men and work out what caused the building to come down.
Lord Asa Briggs, one of Britain's leading historians and a pioneer of adult education, has sadly died. Lord Briggs of Lewes, who was 94, was a Second World War codebreaker at Bletchley Park before embarking on an academic career as a leading specialist on the Victorian era.
2 new state-of-the-art air ambulances have been launched in the south, better equipped to reach emergencies in minutes, day and night.
Yes, until now, the Hampshire and Isle of Wight and the Thames Valley air ambulances have only been able to fly during daylight hours.
Well, the new helicopters cover Hampshire, the Isle of Wight, Berkshire, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire, with one based at Thruxton and the other at RAF Benson. More than a third of all emergencies attended are road accidents.
Well, the new helicopters are fitted with spotlights and carry night vision goggles for life-saving missions in the hours of darkness. From Bewley, this report from Sally Simmons.
The sight and sound of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight air ambulance at Bewley today brought back memories of the moment when Danielle Bartley's life changed forever. The mother from Andover shows her 8-year-old son Ethan the helicopter that saved her life when she crashed on the M3 16 months ago.
Without the air ambulance, where would you be?
I wouldn't be here. I broke 4 bones in my spine, 6 in my neck, and had my right arm amputated. So, you know, it's a learning curve, and every day we're still learning.
Today, the Thames Valley and the Hampshire and Isle of Wight air ambulance launched night flying until 2 a.m. on 2 new aircraft adapted for the dark.
Well, it's easy to see the modifications on this helicopter for flying at night. One very big searchlight, underneath a landing light and a wire detector. Pylons, any sorts of wires, such a problem for night flying.
When Tim Daniels cycled into a telegraph pole at 30 miles an hour, when Robert lost control of his scooter, the air ambulance was there within minutes. For those in need of rescue, there's now no need to fear the dark, but it is a challenge for the pilot.
We need to take more care and use the instruments a lot more. When you add the night vision goggles, you add in the prospect of tunnel vision effectively. So you get a good view through the night vision goggles, but only through tunnel vision.
The charity relies on generous donations. For those who've been rescued, they can't imagine life without it. For Danielle, there wouldn't be life without it. Sally Simmons, ITV News, Bewley.
Football now. Brighton have moved themselves up into the Championship's automatic promotion places after last night's victory against Reading at the Amex. The Seagulls took a first-half lead through James Wilson. Now they sit just 6 points off the league leaders, Burnley.
And Oxford United keep their hold on the League Two second spot thanks to a 4-0 victory over Dagenham and Redbridge. Kemar Roof's hat-trick and Alex McDonald's header put the U's 6 points above the play-off places.
On day 2 at Cheltenham, the Lambourne trainer Nicky Henderson is celebrating after his stable star, sprinter Sacre, won the day's feature race, the Champion Chase. The trainer had previously said victory for sprinter Sacre, who last won the race 3 years ago, would provide one of the most emotional moments of the festival. And he was absolutely right.
Meanwhile, former Olympic cycling gold medalist turned jockey Victoria Pendleton is preparing to set off from her Oxfordshire training base for the festival where she will compete in Friday's Fox Hunter Chase. The 35-year-old, who trains in Aston Rowant, has gone from complete novice to race ready in less than a year.
It's exhilarating riding horses. I mean, I love training as a cyclist, and when you're going down the velodrome at full speed behind a motorbike, it is a really big rush. But yeah, riding horses every day, every moment is always expecting the unexpected. So it couldn't be anything else but exhilarating.
Now your votes are in, and in just a moment we are going to reveal which 3 community groups are going to get a share of lottery money in the first ever People's Projects giveaway.
Well, if you've been watching us over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully you have, you'll know we heard from 5 projects right across the Meridian region, each hoping to get their hands on up to £50,000.
Well, Fred, Simon and I were sent out to deliver the good news, so without further ado, let's find out who our winners are.
And so we come to the first of our People's Project winners. It's at Emsworth on the Hampshire-Sussex border. It's called Silver Linings. It's the most unique organisation because it's young people with learning difficulties cooking for the over 55s in this town, and they all join together for social activities. Have they won? Well, let's find out. Hello, everybody. Oh! Hello, Wendy. Oh! So you are hoping to get some money. Well, I have to tell you there are winners, but there are also sadly losers. Oh dear, but luckily you are not losers, you are winners. You've got Wendy Schoen.
Yes.
Are you pleased?
I'm delighted, thrilled, overwhelmed, everything. This is just what we wanted.
What are you going to spend it on?
We're going to spend it on running day activities for older people, crafts, lots of fun and games, going on outings, health advice, all sorts.
Fantastic. Are you all happy?
Yeah!
Fantastic. That's a happy story. Let's now get another one from Sangeeta.
Thanks, Fred. I'm in Basingstoke with another cheque from the People's Projects. It's for £50,000 and it's about to go to a group which does some great work with dementia patients. Let's go give them the great news. Joyful Jams, sorry to interrupt your sing-along. Louisa, I think I might have something that belongs to you. Many, many congratulations. You've won £50,000. It's a stupid question, but I have to ask it. What's your reaction?
Speechless. I'm overwhelmed.
Tell us briefly, what are you going to do with the money?
We are going to do some training with care staff and with more artists. We're going to really extend the existing work that we do in more care homes across the county. And yeah, we're just going to develop it as much as we can and really help as many people. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Many congratulations.
Thank you very
much. And more great news now. Let's go to Simon, who's in Poole.
Sangeeta, as you can tell, I'm in a church and the Rising Voices Choir are having their rehearsal and I'm very rudely going to interrupt them. Sorry to interrupt, apologies. Nolene, I'm sorry to stop your singing in its tracks, but thank you all for being here today. Why is the choir so special?
It's a really special choir. We're a choir for people affected by cancer, and this helps people to recover and make new friendships and new relationships to help them on their way to recovery.
So a real proper team effort going on here.
Yes,
all right, I've got a team
so.
job for you, if you don't mind. Would you mind just holding this for a moment, please? And if we whip it open, we can see that you have been awarded £50,000. Everybody's pleased. Nolene, just tell us quickly what difference this money's going to make.
What we really want to do is take this magic medicine out and be able to influence and share it with other people so that we can have more choirs like this and more people affected by cancer to help.
And this is going to do that?
This will do that.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, look, congratulations to you all. Why don't you sing us out?
One voice singing in the darkness. All it takes is one voice singing so you hear what's on your mind, and when you look around you'll find there's more than one.
For you Beautiful voices.
Wonderful,
and
wonderful.
many congratulations to Silver Linings, Joyful Jams and Rising Voices who you heard from there.
And if you didn't win, don't worry. Hopefully we can do it all again next year. Thanks for taking part.
Thank you. Now, 4 tiny fox cubs who started life beneath the floorboards of a house in Brighton are now being brought up by a local charity.
Yes, it's believed they were only 2 days old when they were found, and as Andy Dickinson found out, they are already quite a handful.
It's been a stressful and rather tiring start to life for these little fox cubs, 4 of them born under the floorboards of a house in Hove, undergoing renovations. Their mother using an open wall to reach them until, with builders watching on, they had to be evicted.
We left them a couple of days to see whether, having been disturbed, the mother would take them away. She didn't, so they really had to come in to be reared.
Their new home then is at this animal charity in nearby Woodingdean. Husband and wife team Roger and Fleur Muscle bringing the cubs up alongside rabbits and seagulls, as well as a new friend, a 5th cub, nicknamed Splash.
He was found, believe it or not, having been spotted falling from a tree into somebody's pond. So I can only imagine that something like a crow had flown up with him and dropped him. Feeding and sleeping is the order of the day at the moment. When they're able to walk around and look after themselves a bit more, they go into an outdoor enclosure for the summer. We just throw food at them and ignore them pretty well. And then when it comes to catching them for release, they're almost uncatchable.
The animals will remain with the couple until around September, their black fur and blue eyes soon turning brown. These foxes in their box for a limited time only. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Woodingdean.
Busy little things, aren't they? Talking about busy people, here's Simon.
Hey, I've got a mystery for you here.
Oh.
What is it? Your clue is it's a creature. Have a look. What do you think this is? Any ideas?
A hedgehog?
A frog?
A hedgehog.
A frog, because it's
frog.
green.
Frog is good. Frog is
Frog
good.
is
Here's
good.
the picture that might give it away. It is in fact a Vietnamese mossy frog. Their camouflage has been described as one of the best in the amphibian world. Look, they can look like a lump of moss or lichen when they're out in the wild. Very impressive.
that would scare me.
The Cotswold Wildlife Park in Burford in Oxfordshire are currently celebrating because look, they've had 8 little froglets. Aren't they tiny? Successfully bred at the park for the first time, and some of them as small as a 20p. Look. It's sweet, but when they're frightened, they can roll up into a ball and play dead. Speaking of which,
like yourself,
Joe emailed in with some pictures like this. That Ben, her son, tuck in Southsea coastline, apparently between the pyramids and the pier, covered in loads of starfish, and she wondered what's been going on. The theory is that the starfish feed on mussels and molluscs in the relatively shallow water. Then you get the stormy weather like we had recently, and then they all get washed ashore, unfortunately. No longer with us, but still a bit of a shocker that they all sort of turn up on the beach. And what a thing to find, all of those starfish.
God. And from starfish to a weather forecasting star, little Simon Barkin. Here he is.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us outside a chateau.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, now, if it hadn't been for that annoying wind today, it would have been quite a nice spring-like kind of day. Thankfully, the wind will calm down as we head into tomorrow, but there'll be some other subtle changes too. Although the main story stays the same, high pressure very much in charge. That's going to keep the low-pressure systems and the weather fronts way out to the west. But you can see the high pressure starting to drift westwards, and so that means we're going to start to drag in a little bit more cloud, certainly as we head towards the weekend. For tonight, though, well, the cloud's just going to basically disappear. A lot of clear skies. Temperatures down to around freezing, and we'll also see a bit of patchy frost in places too. So it will be a lovely start tomorrow. Cool and crisp. Lots of blue sky to wake up to as we head through the day. Yes, there will be some fair weather cloud knocking around. And temperatures tomorrow a little bit higher than today, peaking at around 10, maybe 11 degrees. That's 52 in Fahrenheit. And with less wind, it's going to feel that bit more pleasant if you're outside. As for your high tide times, you can see in Portsmouth, 5:30 in the morning, 6:20 in the evening. And then Thursday, bit of an east-west split on the go. Better the brightness in the west, more cloud in the east.
Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
And in just a moment we have the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale and James Mates.
Stacey Poole has got our late news, so do join her if you can. But for now, though, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much indeed for watching. Enjoy the evening, take care, and join us again tomorrow if you can. Till then, from all of us.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.